Welcome to the Sports Podcast Awards. I'm one of your hosts, James Haskell, former professional rugby player. Now I'm a DJ, podcaster with my own production company, but I'm joined today by the very, very talented Colleen Wolfe. Colleen, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. As I've always said, James, you are an excellent talent evaluator, so thank you for that intro. What's up, everybody? It's an honor to host the very first Sports Podcast Awards. My name is Colleen Wolfe. I'm a host at NFL Media. I lead our Thursday night football coverage, Good Morning Football Weekend. But most importantly, I'm a Philly girl that likes a dark bar and a nice pair of J's. And I'm always happy to talk about all three, James.
Trust me to be shown up by my co-host. Better voice, better delivery, living the absolute dream. And I'm stuck in the UK without the sunshine. Even in the background, you've got the sun. So I'm annoyed as it is. But listen, hopefully we'll absolutely smash it. With over 320 entries, we were overwhelmed and overjoyed with the amazing podcast that came into the Sports Podcast Awards community. From the entry process to the shortlisting, from our select industry jury through to the official judging phase, which saw tens of thousands of podcasters and listeners from around the world cast their votes. I would say we are ready to get the winners' announcement started.
Yes, I agree. And we totally did a lot of the heavy lifting for this. So as a reward to myself, I've decided that the first category is going to be football. However, since this is an international awards show, specifically, we're going to go with American football as the category because, James, you know, we have different footballs. Your football, it's different than my football.
Yeah, it caused a lot of confusion over here. But we're playing soccer over here. But listen, I'm a massive fan of the NFL and I'm very excited to see who does well in this category.
All right, me too. So obviously everyone just know that one is not better than the other, soccer and football. They're just different but equally good. So the nominees for Best American Football Podcast are God Bless Football, The Rough Cut Sportscast, The Nat Combs Show, Talkin' Giants, Greg Bedard's Patriots Podcast, Just Getting Started with Rich Eisen, The Cleats Off Podcast, and The Fantasy Footballers. And the winner of the Best American Football Podcast is God Bless Football. God bless the people of God Bless Football from Meadowlark Media. We got Stugatz, K-Funk, Mikey A, Jabba, Mojo, Billy Gill. Anybody else? You guys have like an army of men coming through to accept this honor. Holy crap. Of all the football podcasts that talk about American football, nobody does it better than you guys. And Mojo, I hear you're the acceptance guy. So congrats, gang.
Mojo, take it away. It is all yours.
Whoa, me! What an honor to be first to speak at the honors. This is huge, man. We're hyped up. We're just glad to be a small part of God Bless Football every week. The best, number one, officially, we're here.
The energy off the charts right now. Love the shades. Love the show. You guys have everything. College, pro, gambling, Gronk stuff, fantasy, whatever. What's the secret sauce to the pod? What makes it work so well?
Stugatz.
I think the secret sauce, thank you, Jabba. I was going to say that, but you stole my thunder, but I appreciate that. It's either me or K-Funk. I'm not certain who it is. Okay. And I left out Javon Curse. We should thank him as well. He was on one time, and Jabba's kid, and the guy who was driving Jabba's kid around, the other kid, and the two kids who were sitting in the back seat, they all made picks. And a couple of employees at Dunkin' Donuts, when Rob Gronkowski drove through, they made picks. So thanks to them and, of course, Chris Gronkowski as well. What makes the show different and stand out is these guys right here, this segment right here. Because Golick and Sims, they give us the football stuff. But what separated us from everyone else is Mojo, Gronk, Jabba, and K-Funk. And so I'd like to think they're a large reason as to why we won this award, them and me, and that's about it.
I think it helps we're all friends. I think the aspect of just being friends and then obviously coming to this and having those three guys behind us to make us look like not idiots when we talk, because we do forget. We forget we're telling stories, and then sometimes we have to text each other and like, did I give the right version or should I have PG'd that down a little bit? So there's times we have to catch ourselves every once in a while, but they do a fantastic job, and it's been so cool to be a part of it and just to see what direction you thought it was going to go when you first got on the show to me flipping a coin and not coming in last in our guest picks. So that it turns out way different than you think.
We forget every week that we're actually filming, which probably makes Billy's job way worse because we say some off the wall stuff that he has to edit out later, but get in here and have a great time with each other. And man, Stu Gods, Billy, and Mikey are the best at just steering conversations and just having a good time with us.
Billy, what's it like to edit this?
I hate it, honestly. I don't want to sound negative. I hate it.
Let's talk this through.
Every Thursday is a nightmare for me because we have not just them. They're not even. This is the fun part of it. Is Jabba, Mojo, K-Funk, and Chris. The hardest part, I would say, is figuring out, because Mike Golick joins every week and so does Chris Sims. Stugatz will ask them the exact same questions. So I then need to go back and figure out, where do I cut out? Because each segment's supposed to be like 10 minutes to 15 minutes long. He'll go 45 minutes to an hour with each one of them. So how do I make 30 to 40 minutes disappear of their stuff every week without Stugatz noticing that we don't need his Jets opinion for the fourth or fifth time?
I know that you guys have an amazing, loyal following. The listeners make this thing go round. So do you guys want to give any shout outs here to all of the loyal fans out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't have a podcast without the listeners. So we thank them for liking what it is that we do, as insane as it is. We appreciate it. I'm not certain we've ever actually, this crew, I do that with Sims and Golick, but I'm not certain this crew has ever actually really discussed football. The fact that our fans love that about the show, I think, is what kind of makes the show work. So we do appreciate all the fans of God Bless Football, all the listeners of God Bless Football, because the numbers were enormous. And so we appreciate it. I'll speak on behalf of Billy, Bobby Goons, K-Funk, Rob Gronkowski, Chris Gronkowski, Jabba, Mojo, everyone involved with the show, Billy and Mikey A. Fans, thank you for enjoying the craziness of every Friday with God Bless Football.
You've done fantastic. Moving away from ESPN, you left the nest. It's like moving into your first apartment, flying on your own now, winning awards, doing the damn thing. Keep it up. Congratulations and continued success, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Colleen. We appreciate
God
it.
bless football, Colleen.
God bless football.
God bless football.
On to a topic that I am equally as excited about because I bloody love a good documentary. What about you, Colleen? What would be your favourite sports documentary ever?
Okay, so same, but I'm actually going to go with a docu-series. The greatest basketball player of all time and the dynasty of the Bulls. I have to go with The Last Dance.
What a show that is. That got me through lockdown.
I know.
Right, the nominees for Best Sports Documentary Podcast are Football's Cult Heroes, Inside the Tour, Truly the Goats, Defiance, Together, Summer of Gold, SC Reportajes Podcast, Sporting Witness, The Sound of Football. The winner of the Best Sports Documentary Podcast is Defiance. We now welcome one of the biggest sporting legends that has ever been, Michael Johnson from the Defiance Podcast. Congratulations, Michael. How are you?
Thanks, James. Yeah, I'm good. Very excited to talk to you about Defiance, and super excited that we won.
Now, you have won a lot of awards and medals in your time. Where does winning this sports podcast award rank in the rest of them?
For me, it's very important. It has been since I finished my career to find things that that I can excel in and that I can enjoy doing as well. But once you start with that competitiveness, hey, you want to keep winning, and so everyone is significant and not necessarily compared to the Olympics. I think from an outsider standpoint, that would be the case. You'd sort of compare it to the Olympics, but at this point, I'll take every victory I can get.
I wanted to ask you, obviously, Defiance touches on so many kind of key topics, kind of the history and protest in sport. Why did you want to do this, and just how important a message is it?
I felt like the timing was really right for this, given all that's been taking place, here in the States. It was a very interesting situation for me, and it just made me think, all of these people out there, using their platform, whatever they have, to protest for what's right and what they believe in. And it just, so the idea of highlighting those people who have used sport as a tool for change and as a platform seemed like the right time.
What you've done is created and changed a lot of people's opinions. How important is it to get that kind of feedback for yourself?
What we set out to do was tell stories that people didn't know, but also tell the backstory to some of the stories that people knew, but had only heard, sort of reported in the news and didn't understand the full story. And I think we accomplished that, where people, talk about, the Colin Kaepernick story that they thought they knew, but then in listening to Nate Boyer tell them that, hey, I'm a white man, Green Beret, and I'm the one who told him to sit.
Is there anyone particularly you'd like to thank, Michael? Because obviously I know you put an incredible amount of hard work into it, and especially in such a busy time for you. But is there anyone that you guys would like to thank as well?
I was extremely busy during the time, and I did a lot of work on this, but certainly Simon Clancy and the team over at Folding Pocket were amazing. Simon was just so amazing to work with, and we had a lot of fun doing this. He made it fun. Lisa Markey, Nick Keller, Ben Pilbeam over at Benchmark were fantastic. My assistant, Karen Taylor, I mean, she was instrumental in this and making my schedule, work with Cy, and my wife, who, had to listen to me tell all of these stories, so a great team of support on this. So I'd like to thank them all. We couldn't have done it without them.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for today. You are our sports documentary winner, and I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, we have the big dogs, the heavy hitters in the industry, the real heavyweights of the sports podcasting world, the big hitters category.
James, did you enter any of your pods in this category, or are you not fancying yourself a big hitter?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm clearly a big hitter, and I've actually got more podcasts than Apple, but for some mysterious reason, none of my podcasts are won, and they're not in this category.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of a conflict of interest there, but I'll give you a gold star for being a big hitter. So there you go. This category is stacked with talent. Here are the nominees. The J-Boy Show, Monday Mile with Amy Fuller, Just Getting Started with Rich Eisen, Talk is Jericho, The Fantasy Footballers, The MMA Hour with Ariel Hawani, The High Performance Podcast, and The Tennis Podcast. And the Big Hitter Award goes to Fantasy Footballers. And we welcome in 2/3 of the Fantasy Footballers podcast, Andy Holloway and Mike Wright, the Fantasy Hitman. Congratulations, guys. First time, long time over here.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. It's very exciting to meet. We're huge fans of all the work that you do. We've been Twitter pals, I think, kind of silently, as industry people tend to do. But so it's tremendous to have an actual face-to-face conversation.
Absolutely.
So for you guys, your show is incredibly successful. It's so entertaining. It's so funny. I'm always laughing when I listen to it. But I think what's so cool about your pod is that it's an independent podcast, and you're constantly in the top 10 among sports in the US with people and networks like ESPN and The Ringer, et cetera. Like, that's some grassroots baller status right there.
People come up to us. They've built this relationship with us. They do know who we are because this is it. I mean, You get it on the show. And I think we just built this connection with the listeners organically, and it's stuck, and it's been a fun ride.
It's been really cool because I feel like listening to your show, you can tell how friendly you guys are and how close you are, and you kind of let the viewers and the listeners into that as well, so everyone kind of feels like they're in your circle. But I did notice that somewhere, I think it's on your website, you say that you have a holistic approach to fantasy football. I live in Los Angeles, so if it says holistic, I can't resist it. What does that mean, though, exactly?
At the beginning, you play fantasy football for fun. Now, like some people get into, the heavy money leagues and things like that, so they're playing for a financial gain. But us, like our main league, the league of record, as we refer to it on the podcast, has never had money. Like it's simply you win and you get to troll everybody in the league. I get to let Andy know that I am better than him in fantasy football
for a whole year,
which really means I'm better than you as a human being. And like avoiding the punishment if you lose. So we try to encapsulate all of those things of playing for fun. How do you win, and not just in the draft? How do you win, with the waiver pickups, with the matchups, just everything involved. So we try to take it out of just the stat sheet, and we call it the holistic approach.
Well, you guys keep up the excellent work. It's such a fun mix. I really enjoy the show. Clearly, I'm not alone. So congratulations again. And go treat yourselves with a celebratory recording or a sandwich, whatever you have going on.
Ooh, sandwich.
That sounds good. We can order for Jason and
Yeah.
eat it ourselves. So thank you
That's
so
perfect.
much. We
Yes.
appreciate it. And thanks to all of our listeners for supporting the show.
As we round out March, we have the NBA playoffs right around the corner starting mid-April. So let's see which basketball pod pick and rolled its way to the top. The nominees for Best Basketball Podcast are Celtics Beat, Showtime with Michael Cooper, Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman Podcast, Lakers Nation, Titus and Tate, Forgotten Seasons, Got 'em Coach, Basketball History 101. And the winner is Basketball History 101. Let's hear from the show's host, Rick Loiza.
We want to thank the Sports Podcast Awards for this incredible honor and recognition. We are so humbled by it. And we are also inspired by it to produce a new episode each and every week from deep in basketball history. As we often like to say here, we are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience as we share a new story each week from deep in basketball history.
Moving on to the Best Team Podcast category, we wanted to give love to the podcasts that put all their energy and passion into covering one lucky team in particular. And we had a serious mix of sports repped in this category. The nominees are Patriots Beat, Garden Report, Wrigleyville Nation Podcast, Talkin' Yanks, UTD Podcast, Two Woods, Four Quarters, a Harlequins Podcast, When Football Was Football, and Bleeding Green Nation. And the winner is Two Woods, Four Quarters, a Harlequins Podcast. I gotta get the hosts in here. Michael and Will, welcome.
We're so made up to win this award, adding a third trophy to what's been a miraculous year for our club.
It means a lot to be crowned Best Team Podcast against some of the real giants of the sporting world who are absolutely brilliant at everything they do.
We're massively excited for the next 12 months. Wish you all the very best. Triple champs of England, up the pod.
Rugby podcasters are a very passionate bunch, especially our own co-host here in the Sports Podcast Awards. We had 8 great podcasts that were nominated in the Best Rugby Podcast category, and they are Mull Over, Grassroots Women's Rugby from the Roots Up, the Eagle-Eyed Rugby Podcast, the Rugby Pod, Rugby Pass Offload, The Good, the Bad, the Rugby, Out of Your League. And the winner is the Rugby Pod, and let's say hello to the fellas.
Hello to our millions of listeners and followers. I'm Jim Hamilton.
And I'm Andy Good. And thank you very much because we have won the Best Rugby Podcast at the Sports Podcast Awards. Of course we have.
Have we, really?
We have, mate. We have. Basically, the greatest rugby podcast on the planet, thanks to the millions of listeners.
Thank you very much. We love you, and they love us.
We do. It's good fun.
So we asked our Twitter followers who their dream podcast guest would be, and I'll reel off a few of the answers from the community. Jack Nicklaus, Andy Murray, Serena Williams, James Haskell, all kind of elite sports people.
Mm-hmm. We'd like to thank James's family for tweeting us, but we know the real truth is they all want to talk to Serena.
Okay, perhaps I did make the last one up a little bit, but what about you, Colleen? Who would be your ultimate podcast guest?
Okay, potentially my mom, because it's really tough to get her on the phone. She hates talking on it, so she would have to talk to me there. But if I could have anyone on a podcast, I would say Jason Sudeikis. I'm a big Ted Lasso guy. I don't know if you are or not. Maybe even Brett Goldstein's character. I love Roy Kent. Otherwise, Beyonce, obviously. What about you?
I've always wanted to interview The Rock, if I'm completely honest with you, or Arnie. Very kind of obviously not thought out meathead males, but that suits me quite well. And obviously, you know, I've had some pretty special people from the sports world in my podcast, but I want to get a bit more into the celebrity world, and some of the top comedians. Steve Carell as well would really float my boat.
Love it. That would be great. He'd be awesome. So while we wait for the universe to deliver our dream podcast guests, let's get to our next category. James, I love sports because they're fun and games are the best, obviously, but it's not all fun and games. It's also a massive business, and it just so happens to provide a life distraction.
You know, Colleen, ultimately, they are all about the business. What goes on behind the scenes is vital for the sporting ecosystem to thrive. The 8 shortlisted podcasts in the best sports business category offer an insightful look into the business of sport. Here are the nominees. Sporticast, Are You Not Entertained? The Business Case for Women's Sports, Sports Pro Podcast, the Sports Entrepreneurs Podcast with Marcus Lurr, Inside Sponsorship, The Drive Phase, The Business Called Cricket with Rika Roy. The winner of the Best Sports Business Podcast is Are You Not Entertained? We now welcome Giles Morgan from the Are You Not Entertained podcast. Congratulations, Giles. What does it mean for you to win this prize?
We're really chuffed. There are 3 hosts, Grant Williams, Roger Mitchell and myself, and we set out to do this podcast to talk about the sport business, the world of sport business and finance within it. I don't think we ever expected to win anything very much other than maybe get a few family members to listen, and it's grown and grown and grown, and we're really, really chuffed.
Have you been surprised about the reaction that you've had to it?
I think we've been surprised and humbled because we're none of us are journalists, so we've all come from different areas of the world of sort of finance and marketing and consultancy, but we have pretty strong views ourselves. So whether we're talking and arguing amongst ourselves or bringing in guests and then trying to beat them up verbally as well, it's not for the faint-hearted, and I think that's what people have liked, is there's opinion rather than just kind of vanilla.
Do you enjoy being able to put that forward without any ramifications?
There is nothing more liberating, and you'll know this, where you can just say what the hell you like, and hopefully people, no, they don't have to agree with you. You just want them to listen, and then they can take their own view.
What's next for the podcast? Where do you want to grow it? Because it seems like a group of friends that came together. You've got this audience. You've obviously won this award. Is the sky the limit? Do you want to change direction, or do you want to stay at podcasting?
Well, I think we'll keep it very core to the sports industry. That's where the growth is. And with all the technology and evolvement of technology, the whole world of finance and sport is changing. We've got a couple of new shows, and then we carry on with the existing shows as we are. But, if someone comes up with a good idea, as you know, we'll consider it.
One last question. Do you want to thank anyone for helping you get this award?
Well, it sounds a bit glib, but obviously one has to thank one's listeners because they're the people that vote. They're the people that like the show or don't like the show. So there's them. Also, we have a wonderful producer, James Gibb, he lives in the Cayman Islands, so we shouldn't feel that sorry for him. But he has the thankless task of pulling it all together. So from Grant, Roger, me, thank you to our listeners and to James in the Cayman Islands.
Thank you so much, Charles. And hopefully I'll see you soon behind opposite on a table with extensive amounts of food and alcohol.
You certainly will, James. I look forward to it.
With the recent Olympics and Paralympics still fresh in the old memory bank, let's Nathan Chen our way into the next category, the Best Olympic and Paralympic Podcast.
Yes, Colleen, we've been completely and utterly spoiled over the last 9 months with the Tokyo Olympics, the Paralympics being postponed a year, and the 2022 Winter Olympics and Paralympics happening recently. So it's a good time for these podcasts to come to the fore.
And we've had some amazing entries for this category too. The top 8 nominated podcasts in this category are Destination Tokyo, The Olympic Mile, My Defining Moments, Off the Podium, My New Favorite Olympian, Keep the Flame Alive, Equal to Achieving Disability Equality, and A Winning Mindset, Lessons from the Paralympics. And the winner of the Best Olympic and Paralympic Podcast is Off the Podium. Make way for the champion. Ben Waterworth is here repping the Off the Podium pod with his buddies Colin Hilding and Jared Lubick. I have always loved the Olympics. Obviously, that is something that we have in common. This podcast you guys have been doing since 2016. What made you want to start the show to begin with, and what have you learned along the way?
We sort of all knew each other through some other podcasts that we were involved in. And I think we just had some conversations about, hey, we love the Olympics. Let's get on board with it. So it went from there. Rio was starting. We started doing daily episodes. And before we knew it, we were interviewing Olympians and everything else along the way too.
Do you have a dream guest that would come on the podcast?
Oh, I mean, on that, Tonya Harding, Nance Kerrigan, why not get them on the show? I mean, it's not like they've not been interviewed 20,000 times, right, about the same things. But a big one that we really would love to get, Esther Ledeka, the Czech sort of skier, snowboarder who obviously won gold in both snowing and skiboarding back in Pyeongchang, got another gold in Beijing. We absolutely love her. She's fantastic, huge fan of hers. So I think she's probably number one right now on our list as somebody to get on the show. But there's actually an Australian mogul skier by the name of Dale Begg-Smith, won a gold for Australia back in 2006 in Turin. And he's actually a former Canadian. And given that we're sort of a co-Canadian Australian podcast and works on many levels.
Well, Ben, you should be very proud because I think that you are probably the first person from Tasmania to win the Olympic winner of the podcast division here for the Sports Podcasting Awards. So you can hang your hat on that.
Very much so. Very proud. I like that little bit there to staple it out there. But no, it's a massive honor. Obviously, thank you to everyone who voted for us, and to Colin and Jared, obviously, for all their help, and to all our fellow nominees as well. We forgot to mention them in our thank you video, but congratulations for all their achievements. And thank you so much, Colin. It's a pleasure to chat with you today.
He's humble. He's successful. He's Ben Waterworth. Everybody subscribe to the podcast, and I'll see you in Paris.
This next category represents a hugely important topic that deserves recognition inside and outside of sport. The shortlist for the Equality and Social Impact category has shows that cover a wide range of hugely important topics such as LGBTQ, autism, race, environmental sustainability, equality, disability in sport, and much more.
And this category had the most shares through the judging phase too. So that just shows us how much these podcasts have really moved the listeners.
Thank you, Colleen. Well, here are the nominees. The BBC's LGBT Sports Podcast, Gold Diggers Podcast, Ordinarily Speaking, the TWS Sports Podcast, Emergency on Planet Sport, Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, Play It Forward presented by Peace Players, Equal to Achieving Disability Equality. The winner of the Best Equality and Social Impact podcast is TWS Sports Podcast. We now welcome Adam Milicic and Tom and Avtar from the TWS Sports Podcast. Congratulations, winners. What does it feel like?
Thank you very much.
It's honestly amazing. We're grateful for this opportunity.
It's fantastic. It's unbelievable, and we're so honoured to have won.
How did the podcast come about?
So it all started, I think, initially during lockdown, a few years ago when we were all at home listening to a lot more podcasts. And I went to our head teacher, Sarah, and I said, what a great learning opportunity it would be to do a podcast. All our students at our school are autistic, and it's something that I feel that they could get involved with. So after a few discussions with the management at school, we thought, yeah, let's go ahead with it. Let's try it. It's something that I'm not aware of many schools doing. And after a week or so, it was all kind of set up and we had the students involved. And it all started as quite a small project that has very quickly grown into a very big project.
You had some incredible guests, Matt Letitia, John Eales, Joe Hart, Paddy McGuinness. This is a question for the lads. Who was your favourite guest to interview?
Well, my two personal favourites was Will Greenwood and Paddy McGuinness.
Why? Why were they so good?
Well, with Will Greenwood, I enjoyed not only talking to him about his career, he was funny and I could relate to his child who is autistic, and he explained on how he's been learning to understand more of his child's autism.
Obviously, I know there's so much hard work goes into this podcast. Is there anyone that you guys want to thank? Because obviously, collecting an award, there's always got to be a thankful acceptance speech. Maybe you want to thank yourselves for being brilliant. Who knows?
I want to thank not only myself, but Adam, Avtar, also Nigel, because Nigel was in the early days of the podcast, and also every person that we chat to on the podcast. I'm talking everyone as well.
Where do you want to take this podcast? Is it just going to carry on where you're going to carry on doing it for many seasons? Is there any guests that you're desperate to have? What's next for you lot?
In the future, I want to talk to a variety more different people, and also get more women on the podcast. And I've mentioned quite a lot of times, my biggest dream on who I want to talk to on the podcast is Tyson Fury. He's like one of my idols.
He'd be a good guest, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd be amazing.
Well, listen, now you're award winners. You know, the sky is the limit. I'm sure Tyson Fury would absolutely love to come on. Congratulations. Well done, TWS Sports Podcast. It's an amazing feat, and I wish you the best luck in the future.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much, James.
What an inspiring story. Please go and give those guys a listen. For this category, if you like a bit of a giggle whilst listening to your sports podcasts, then this is the one for you. The nominees for the best sports comedy podcast are Bench with Toast, Roman and Scoop, Unleashed, The Divide Live, Joe Marler Show, Rosed, The Socially Distant Sports Bar, Sigma Sports presents Matt Stevens Unplugged, Football Cliches. And the winner of the best sports comedy podcast is Socially Distant Sports Bar. Let's hear from them now.
Yeah, thanks very much to everyone who voted. Obviously, that we're up against some pretty stiff competition. No shame in losing to us.
Oh God, no! No, don't feel bad.
No,
no.
Tomorrow's another day, isn't it?
Love the unique, bespoke prizes, different for us all. I got a constituent part of a child's plastic foot pump.
Look at that.
I have a mug that is purely branded by us.
See, I've got the trophy here.
Thank you for the awards.
Next up is a sport that I am completely useless at, but as we are approaching the season of golf majors, these 8 great podcasts that were nominated in the best golf podcast category will be sure to keep you entertained. The nominees are Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, Sky Sports Golf Podcast, the Golf Psychology Podcast, For the People, the Open Podcast, Power of the Game, Golf Smarter, those weekend golf guys. And the winner of the best golf podcast is Sky Sports Golf Podcast. And here is a few words from the host, Josh Antman.
Honestly, can't believe we're on Best Golf Podcast. There's some amazing golf podcasts in the category, so I'm slightly overwhelmed, to be honest, to have won this. This is Juno, everyone. Juno asked to be involved. She's in earshot of most podcasts now. We've been doing them at home on Zoom. Thank you to all the listeners, the ones who voted for this award, the ones who interact every week. And I say this all the time, it wouldn't be the same without them. So this, honestly, is for them. Thank you so much.
Sometimes you just need a little bit of motivation to get going and to be the absolute best you can be. And these shows recognised in the best performance and wellbeing category certainly do that. The nominees are Rise With Us, Raising Your Game, the Everyday Adventure Podcast, Truth and Tribe, the Running for Real Podcast, Slice of Pie, the High Performance Podcast, Charges with Rex Chapman. And the winner of the Best Performance and Wellbeing Podcast is the High Performance Podcast. Here's Jake and Damien with a few words to accept their award.
Damien, we won. I know, I'm absolutely ecstatic. So congratulations, Jake, and thank you to everyone that was kind enough to vote for us.
For us to have been in hundreds of school assemblies this year, to be reaching people who are really struggling at times in their lives, to have impacted their well-being, matters more to us, Damien, than anything else, doesn't it?
It's a real privilege. We know we say this regularly about any podcast, and that includes all the brilliant podcasts, that people have to make a commitment to come and listen to it. We don't take that commitment lightly.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's say hello to Amy Hudson on the inaugural Sports Podcast Awards. She was part of the glittering cast on the industry jury. Everybody's got a pod these days, but Amy, you're picking the best, and that's not easy.
Yes, great to be here. Thank you. No, it's a fun time in podcast business for sure.
So you're currently on the podcast team at Spotify, one of the giants in the industry. Tell me a little bit about your role and how it's changed from your previous stops along the way.
Yeah, so specifically I'm on the Ringer team. So the Ringer is one of Spotify's studios. There's 3 studios on the Spotify podcast side, Ringer, Gimlet, and Parcast. And Ringer has, for those that aren't familiar, sports and pop culture in the US is what they're known for, but we're starting to expand globally, and with our next focus being in the UK. So this is my first podcast role, but I've been in tech and media my entire career, and in sports my entire career.
Well, podcast, it's a great place to be. What was it like, though, being part of the industry jury? Like, I'm sure there was a lot that went into it. So tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah, it was super fun because there was a bunch of podcasts that I wasn't aware of and I don't listen to, because my work world when it comes to podcasts is very much like what I see and do with our network directly. And then my personal podcast world is a bit more true crime heavy. So it was nice to see some sports podcasts that I hadn't been exposed to.
Talk about the range that was there, because that had to have been just really cool for you to see all of the different ones.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it was multiple markets, multiple verticals, everything from health to MMA to football to, well, American football right. And global football, basketball. Yes. And it was people that have been doing podcasts for many years and have huge followings, and then people that are new to the space with more niche sports.
Who would be your dream guest if you could have anyone on any type of podcast? Like, the world is your oyster. Who do you want to interview?
Well, this person is not living anymore, but I would pick Anthony Bourdain if I could.
That's such a good one.
Yeah.
He was one of the best.
Very layered, like super interesting. I would love, time with him if I could.
I loved him so much. My husband and I went to San Sebastian in Spain just because one of his episodes, and I can't remember if it was one of
I know that episode you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, it's the foodie capital of Spain. And we literally booked our tickets immediately. So that's a fabulous answer. You've been amazing, generous with your time. Thank you so much for all of the work that you do and bringing us just some of the most entertaining and powerful podcasts out there, connecting us to so many people and connecting people to the things they love.
Thank you. I appreciate it for the time as well. This was fun.
Wow, that's some great insight from Amy. Thank you so much for that. It's always interesting to hear what podcasts the experts like to listen to.
So moving on to the next category, which is Best Combat Sports Podcast. James, little birdie told me that you're dabbling in this space now.
Yeah, I decided that once I'd retired from rugby that my body was broken and bruised, so I'd go into an even more violent sport. I signed a contract with Bellator to do MMA. I prepared for my first fight for a year, gave up my time, my body, my health to do it. COVID got in the way, couldn't train for a year, and I decided that it's much safer to DJ and to present podcast awards with the likes of you than it is to get my head kicked in.
Combat sports, James. It was the most voted on category during the official judging phase, and the nominees, they're incredible. They did not disappoint at all. Vying for the best podcast in combat sports, Talk is Jericho, Morning Combat, Boxing Life Stories, Fight Disciples, Adam Catterall presents Frank Warren's Heavyweight Podcast, MMA Hour with Ariel Hawani, IFL TV, and Fight Night Boxing Podcast. So the winner of the Best Combat Sports Podcast is Morning Combat. Make way for the winners, Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell. Well done, gentlemen.
Well, it is a very nice award, so thank you to everyone who voted for us, and thank you for the nomination as well, and we're very grateful.
So you guys have a lot of different guests that come on the show, but which is your favorite? Who provides the best content? Is it fighters, promoters, fans? Yeah, who is it?
You know, what happens is, I don't plan it this way, but a lot of fighters end up getting really mad at me and hanging up and threatening me or telling me off. So my favorite guests are Mike Perry and all of the rest of those that are willing to say, look, a-hole, okay? Look, because the thing at the end of the day is we want to be transparent. And that may be transparent ridiculousness, but we want to be transparent. So sometimes you got to ask those hard questions.
When you guys first started the show, though, did you have any any idea that it would be this successful? Were there any doubts? Like how was the beginning phase of this show?
I'd say there's some doubts. I mean, look at this gorilla. Yeah, would you partner would you entangle your finances with him? I did. I think you struggle with something new, so all the change.
I knew the show could be this good, but I'm again humbled by the fan support, the corporational support from Showtime, CBS, Malka, who have really been had our backs at every step. I don't know what the show ceiling is, and I mean, look, one day this might not even be about combat sports. It might be about relationships, because we have an editorial marriage. It's non-physical, but it's intense as shit, okay? and I'm just trying to keep this marriage bed, happy, okay, and clean.
Well, wash your dishes.
Okay.
You mentioned fan support. So before I let you guys go, is there anything that you want to say to your amazing fans?
BC?
Thank you. It's a weird fraternity and as much as I hate fraternities, let's call it a family then, okay? Because fraternity is really just organized gangs of people that aren't strong enough to stand on their own.
I mean, for two washed 42-year-old dads who are dead inside, you have livened us up again. You got the paddles out and brought some life into this whole thing. So thank you for everyone's support. We don't take a single bit of it for granted. And not only have they been supportive, but they've been really good about word of mouth. I can't tell you how many people have been acolytes for the show without us even asking them to. They just did it on their own. So for everyone who has been a part of that process, we are especially grateful to you. But thanks to everyone who even just watches at all, anything.
And you just gained one more listener in myself. So congratulations on that. And obviously the award as well. You guys are doing amazing work. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Now, Colleen, we've stopped messing around with your version. We've come back to my version of football.
Right. No disrespect. It's soccer, but you're from England. So I'm guessing it's like a requirement to know all about it, right? So let's hear about it.
That's where you're wrong. I know absolutely nothing about football. I've only ever been to one live game. I actually had to Google what you would say if you went to a football match. Unsurprisingly, all 8 shortlisted shows in this category were from the UK, so there are some experts over here. Publishers like The Athletic, TalkSport, Sky Sports, Premier League, Copper 90. Have you heard of any of these?
Yes. You know what? I'm actually a huge fan of The Athletic. Soccer, it's actually getting really big over here in America. The MLS is gaining popularity. The women's national team, they recently won their 3rd consecutive She Believes Cup. Also, they won the class action equal pay lawsuit, so they'll finally get paid the same as men in competitions like the World Cup. It's about damn time.
That is obviously big news indeed that they won that, and I'm happy to see that soccer is growing across the pond. The nominees for the best soccer podcast are The Players, Transfer Talk, The Greatest Game with Jamie Carragher, the Official Fantasy Premier League podcast, The Big Interview with Graham Hunter, Game Day, The Totally Football Show, Football Stories. And the winner of the best soccer podcast is Transfer Talk.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's an absolute honour to win this, isn't it, Doms? Big thanks to everyone at the Sports Podcast Awards.
Yeah, I think, first of all, a massive thank you to our producer, Nick Lustig. He does all the hard work behind the scenes, doesn't he? Organising the guests, editing out all the bad bits.
Loads.
Yeah, there's a few of those as well.
Loads of them. Big thanks as well to everyone here at Sky Sports News for supporting us on this for the past few years as well.
Absolutely. And most importantly, a huge, huge thanks to all our loyal listeners who voted for us to win this award. You are the reason we've kept this going, and we really do appreciate your support.
This next category, it's all about adventure with a range of entries across sports like diving, paddleboarding, climbing, skateboarding, and more.
Yes, it's all about people putting themselves outside of their comfort zone. What about you, Colleen? Are you an adventurous type?
I'll go skydiving right now, but just don't ask me to go drive during rush hour in LA. I'm completely out on that.
I'd say the most exciting thing I do in my day is if I sit back in this chair, because you never know whether you're going to fall out of it.
I feel like there is a high chance that you will. So the nominees for Best Urban and Adventure Podcast are Big Deep and Ocean Podcast, Riders Lounge Podcast, Tough Girl Podcast, The Joy of Sup, the Paddleboarding Sunshine Podcast, How to Be Superhuman, Off Watch, Head Right Out, and Factor 2. And the winner of the best urban and adventure podcast is Tough Girl Podcast. We're so excited to say hello to Sarah Williams, the creator and host of the Tough Girl Podcast and the Tough Girl Challenges. Sarah, welcome. Congrats. I have this that I would like to cheers to you. It's not
cheers.
Prosecco.
I've only got gin and tonic, so I feel bad that I haven't got some bubbles now. But it does look like water, but it is gin. So cheers! Woo.
Amazing. Cheers. This is so awesome. How important has this project been to you and this community that you've created?
Oh, do you know, it's incredible to see like where we've come from. This idea that I had like 6 or 7 years ago now. And then, from starting the podcast when I had no idea what I was doing. If you listen to some of my earliest episodes, I don't even introduce myself because I just thought my friends and family were only going to be the people listening. And so a friend said to me, Sarah, you realize you've never actually told anybody like who you are. And I was like, oh my goodness. So it has been, a massive learning curve. This incredible journey, which started on the 4th of August, 2015 with like 4 episodes. And now we've hit over 2 million downloads. We've interviewed over 500 incredible women from around the world. So yeah, it's been amazing. So yeah, and now I'm here winning an award. So yeah, incredible.
What made you decide to start this? Did you need to get out of your comfort zone? Like why this specifically?
So I had a very I feel as though I'm almost back in this world, but I actually used to work in banking many years ago. So I sort of did 8-9 years of the corporate career, and I got to 32 and just thought, this cannot be my life anymore. I need to have a massive change. So I actually ended up going traveling, spent 18 months over in South America and Australia and climbing Kilimanjaro and doing a ski season. When I was traveling, I suddenly thought, hold on, what do you actually want to do with your life? And for me, it was adventure, it was challenge, but it was also wanting to motivate and inspire women and girls. And I ended up putting it together. And then I started podcasting and started doing my own various challenges. So I've, run the Marathon des Sables, which is when you run 6 marathons in 6 days across the Sahara Desert. I've thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail in America, walking 2,200 miles in 100 days and cycled the Pacific Coast Highway and done all of these incredible challenges. But I've vlogged them and I've shared them just to show people, because sometimes with social media, you just get sort of a one-dimensional view of it all. So I like to be very transparent and say, no, this is what it is actually like when you're out there doing these adventures and challenges.
Do any stories in particular stand out to you among listeners that have really, really made their mark on you and the podcast?
Oh, one woman stands out. She is incredible. She's phenomenal. I talk about her all the time. She's actually now one of my good friends. She's called Rosie Swale Pope. She's she's now 75, so 75 years young. And Rosie in her 50s actually became the first woman to actually run around the world. So it took about 5 years to do, but she's also done a huge amount of other challenges. And when I first spoke to her, she was actually out running. So she was running from the UK all the way over. She wanted to run to Nepal, but she got to Turkey, which is where I ended up meeting her. And just due to COVID, she had to, turn back, come back to the UK. But this woman is a powerhouse.
Before I let you go, what does this win mean for you?
It's not really about me, to be honest. It's more about the incredible women's stories that I get to share. And it's just sort of me facilitating that. And one of the things that I have done is I've built this incredible community called the Tough Girl Tribe, this community of just incredible, inspiring, supportive, encouraging women. Because sometimes, when I talk about some of the challenges that I want to do, it's like, yeah, let's run across the desert. Let's go and cycle the Pacific Coast Highway. People sort of look at you a little bit strange. And so sometimes people may not necessarily have people around them who get it, who understand why people want to challenge themselves. And so having built this online community, I've definitely felt that love and support. And, they've voted to put me in this position. So I do want to say a massive thank you to the patrons, the tribe members, the listeners, because it's all down to them that the Tough Girl podcast has got to this point.
The universe thanks you for everything that you're doing. So do I. Congratulations again on the win.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It's such an honor. Thank you.
Good job. Whether you're taking risks in the great outdoors or the great indoors with a gaming console, it should all be celebrated. The best esports podcast nominees are Esports Minute, The Football Manager Show by The Athletic, and Esports Network Podcast. And the winner is The Football Manager Show by The Athletic. Let's see what they have to say.
Thank you so much for this award. It really means a lot to me, to everyone who works on the show. I have to thank The Athletic for their support, Live Score for coming in and sponsoring us, the original producers, Cornelius Mendez and Abby Patterson, and of course, the current producer, the brilliant Steve Hankey. But most of all, our listeners who've done so much in the background. The Football Manager community has been absolutely amazing to us with all of their reviews and their recommendations and their incredible letters. It's been so much fun to work on this podcast, and thank you again for the award.
Here in the US, college sports, they are massive. The amazing nominated podcast in Best College Sports category are The J-Boy Show, The Sports Stove Podcast, Orange Bowl Boys, a Miami Hurricanes podcast, The Knollcast, ABCA podcast, Buckeye Talk, Athletes Unfiltered, and the I-80 Preview podcast. And the winner of the Best College Sports podcast is The Knollcast. And here are the hosts right now, Ingram Smith and Bud Elliott.
We're extremely excited to win the Best College Sports Podcast award.
We've been, really fortunate to have the success that we've had, and this is a great award and certainly something that we're thrilled to receive. So thank you so much.
Well, we can't forget about the cold weather sports, and winter brings us a very nice variety to enjoy. So we created an entire category for the season. The nominees for Best Winter Sports Podcast are Bruins Beat, Hockey Night in New York, Monday Mile with Amy Fuller, Poke the Bear, The Ski Podcast, Here in Puckburg, Legends of the Brand, Effin' Rad Snowboarding Podcast. And the winner of the Best Winter Sports Podcast is The Ski Podcast. And here is host Ian Martin.
It's such a validation for me because I include content in the podcast that I kind of think that people would be interested in hearing. And if more and more people are listening, then I guess that validates that. And to have someone give the podcast an award as well, well, that's so much the better. So thanks again. And thanks to everybody who voted.
Now, I'd just like to take a moment to recognise the devastating events that are happening in the Ukraine. There's been an incredible outpouring of support from across the global sporting community, and the Sports Podcast Awards would like to show our solidarity with the people of Ukraine. People are losing their lives, and we need to show them their support.
If you guys would like to show your support to our Ukrainian friends, please consider making a donation to League of Tolerance, an amazing organization that uses sports to promote human rights, inclusion, and tolerance in Ukraine. There's more information and a link to donate that can be found in the show notes. Okay, now let's speed on out to our next category because it only feels right.
Of course it does, yes. Let's move on to motorsports. The nominees are New Track Record, WTF1 Podcast, The Final Lap Weekly, Positive Regression, a motorsports analytics podcast, Bring Back V10s, classic F1 stories, F1 Beyond the Grid, Sprint Race Show, the Race F1 Podcast. Shall we speed through to the winners, Colleen?
We shall.
The winner of the Best Motorsports Podcast is WTF1 Podcast. Congratulations. What an amazing achievement.
Oh, thank you so much. This is an honour for us all, to do this podcast for quite a few years now. It's weird, really, because we always thought that this podcast was just an extra bit of content that people might want to listen to us waffle on about. And it turns out people actually enjoy listening to our very biased opinions.
How the hell did it get so big from what sounds like just a fun project between friends?
Well, I started it a few years back, and when we launched the YouTube channel, like Matt said, the podcast was something that we just introduced like a year down the line, and it just ended up growing and growing. And we've got a huge, social media following and community that we've just built up by us being F1 fans and doing content for fans, and that's I think really helped us just grow massively.
Katie, you obviously pride yourselves within the podcast of having like a strong female voice. Why is that important to you, and why do you think people are taking such good notice of it?
Well, growing up as somebody, I was like the only woman, apart from my mum, that I knew that watched Formula One. So it's really refreshing to get, other women message me on social media, say that they listen to the podcast, and it's like hearing one of their friends. So that's been important. But the good thing about it is, Matt and Tommy don't treat me any differently just because I am a woman on the podcast. At the end of the day, I'm there because I'm an F1 fan like these two.
Where do you see this podcast going, and what do you want it to mature it into?
So we're actually very close to hitting 1 million YouTube subscribers, which is going to happen maybe even tomorrow, which is very exciting. And it's one of those things where the podcast is growing and growing. We've introduced more things, so we've now got some doing live podcasts, and we're also hoping to bring our podcast to events as well.
Guys, congratulations. Well done. You've achieved something incredible, obviously winning in the motorsports category. I wish you the best of luck in the future. And I will certainly come and watch one of those live shows if they're out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, James, as an athlete, staying fit is part of the job. Is that something that you enjoyed, or was it more of a chore?
Well, thank you, first of all, for noticing that I'm fit, Colleen. I'll take that with the help of any filters and just a good bit of tailoring. Look, fitness is very important to me. It's my life. I don't want to go on about being in amazing shape. What about yourself? Are you a bit of a fitness freak?
I used to be a competitive figure skater, and now I think about working out a lot, but physically, I don't really follow through as much. I'll listen to these podcasts, though, if they can help make me swole. I feel like that might help. The nominations here in this category involved running, biking, rowing, nutrition, weightlifting, everything in between. Here are your nominees for Best Fitness Podcast: The Pink Bike Podcast, Running for Real, Mind Pump, Raw Fitness Truth, Fit Dad Fitness, Row Along, Meathead Test Kitchen, The Training for Ultra Podcast, Wellfar, the running podcast. And the winner for Best Fitness Podcast is Running for Real. Congratulations, Tina. I am just taken by all of the medals that are behind you hanging up right now. You are very accomplished. And now you can add another award to the mix.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So this podcast, it's about a shared love of running, but it's much more than a fitness podcast. So tell me everything.
We have people from all over the board, from Olympians to everyday runners, from dietitians to psychologists, and everyone in between. But the whole goal of it is to get to know the person beyond that love of running, the person underneath, and just the things that matter to them, and how we believe that we can all make this world a better place if we use those strengths and show them to the world. So we pride ourselves on unique conversations, and it's been really fun to get to know the guests along the way.
What's your favorite part about having this successful podcast?
I mean, the community part is incredible, getting to know people from all over the world with all different journeys. But I think the biggest thing is that running is actually a really great analogy for life. And so getting to see that in play in so many different people's lives and their journeys and what they go through in the rest of their life that often translates to a running journey. That has been really special to see.
What does winning this award mean to you and all of the work that you've put into this whole project?
Being able to be acknowledged and appreciated for something that I genuinely love to do and love the people that I meet, and have made some just lifelong friendships from these conversations. It's just such a good feeling to know that it is possible to really, really love what you do, and also be able to celebrate that that part of you or that part of your business can be successful and change other people's lives as well. So I think probably that.
You're an inspiration to so many, including myself. I might even go for a jog after this. Who knows what's going to happen? It might get crazy. Congratulations again, Tina, and keep up the great work.
The Sports Podcast Awards have had entries from 13 different countries, with the news and current affairs category having the entries across the most countries, with entries from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and India.
So the entries were a mix of general sports news as well as sports-specific shows, everything from gymnastics, soccer, basketball, horse racing, a lot of range here in this category.
The nominees for the Best News and Current Affairs podcast are B2B Sports, The Matt Bernier Show, Guys Beers Sports, Sports Unlocked, All Things Gymnastics Podcast, 12 to 1 with Adrian Abraham, Football Social Daily, The Sports Stove. The winner of the Best News and Current Affairs podcast is the Football Social Daily. We now welcome Jim Salverson from the Sports Social, creators of the Football Social Daily. Congratulations, Jim. You must be excited to get this award.
Cheers, James. Yeah, it's great to pick up an award like this. I think when you're in the business of making content, as you know, it can feel a little bit like a treadmill sometimes. You get one thing done and it's the next thing, and you never actually take that time to sit back and step back and look at what you created. So winning something like this is the perfect opportunity to do that, and it's a nice bit of recognition for myself, the project, and the team as to what we've achieved over the last couple of years.
Well, actually, you've made life 10 times more difficult for yourself because you do obviously a daily show. How do you put together the daily show, and how long does it take to prep for?
It isn't always easy. You're quite right. It's a kind of big undertaking to produce a new radio show, or so a new podcast that is 45 minutes to an hour every single day covering Premier League content. Some days it's easier and it writes itself and it preps itself, and some days it isn't. I think one of the benefits we have as a team is every single person who contributes to the podcast is a massive football fan. They understand what football fans are interested in terms of content. And so that makes it almost easier to choose the talking points, choose the discussion points. We've also got a very close-knit team, and because we've got it's the 10,000 hours thing, I guess, to a certain extent. We've done so many of these shows. The more we've done, the easier it's become. But it is a big undertaking, and it's important to get that right as well. It's one of those things, making content like this, that you can't shortcut. You can't just be lazy and chuck anything into the pot and see what comes out the other side. But at the same time, you have to be efficient, because when you're doing this on a daily basis, it can take over your life if you're not careful.
I was going to say, actually, surely with the Premier League we have, you're never short of a story or two. Or have there been days where you're like, oh, God, what the hell am I going to put in the show?
Yeah, I mean, recently it has been just chocker. I mean, you look at the news agenda of the last 12 months and there's been big events that no one would ever see coming previously outside of the world of football, which all goes into part of that narrative. Things like, I mean, recently the Abramovich freezing of assets and the ownership of Chelsea Football Club is an issue. COVID was a massive talking point for us in the Premier League as well. So there is in general quite a decent news agenda, be it transfers or games or whatever it is that's kind of filling up the back pages at any given time. So we're never usually short of content. You occasionally get days that might be during the international break or during the summer as well. We keep the podcast rolling during the summer break where it does get a little bit quiet, but there's normally plenty. And to be honest with you, it's more of a challenge to keep the podcast into its 45-minute constraint than it is to actually find something to fill that time most of the time.
So you obviously got someone on the show gobbier than me, because that's what they try. I always struggle to keep it in the same gap. Is there anyone you guys want to thank for winning this award?
There's an amazing team that go into contributing this podcast. We have journalists, fans, comedians, influencers who contribute on a regular basis, and they all deserve thanks. There's too many of them to name check. We also have a core team of producers and presenters, in particular Niall McCorn, who produces the show on a daily basis, Fergal Brennan, who produces our weekend shows, and also Marley Anderson, whose official job title is our head of social media at Sports Social, but his secondary job title is mouthy Newcastle United fan at the moment, and he's become a regular on the show, and he's someone that the fans really seem to, I think because he's got a slightly dour personality about him and he is a little bit moany and he knows the pain of being a football fan. He's someone that our listeners have really connected with. So everyone deserves a load of credit and a load of thanks for helping us get this.
Jim, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again to you and the team, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Nice one. Cheers, mate.
We now move on to the baseball category. With the recent Major League Baseball lockout, there's been no shortage of talking points for all these baseball podcasts out there. The top 8 nominated podcasts in this category are Goats on the Bump with Ross Stripling, Red Sox Beat, Talking Baseball, Wrigleyville Nation Podcast, That 90s Baseball Pod, AlmostCooperstown.com, Too Tall Sports Podcast. And the winner is Talking Baseball. Next up is a category that also got a lot of entries from multiple different countries around the world. Cricket. The nominees for Best Cricket Podcast are Cricket Unfiltered, Middle Please Umpire, Cricket Daily, Cricket Surf Cricket, Tell Go On Cricket Podcast, Giving the Game Away, The Last Wicket, The Cricket Library. And the winner of the Best Cricket Podcast is Giving the Game Away. And here is Cam and Joel from the show.
Thank you so much for the award. It means a lot. We are both obviously massive fans of cricket. We love sitting down with these players, getting to know them and getting to know their journeys. And so to know that people are listening to that and then voting for us off the back of those conversations is really cool. So thank you so much for the award.
We're quite a young podcast, but we're hoping that this award will inspire us to keep going and keep growing in 2022. We're really excited about what's next. We've got some exciting guests coming up and we're really looking forward to sharing their journeys. So once again, thank you so much for voting.
From one hugely popular global sport to another. Next up, we have the Best Tennis Podcast category. The nominees in this category are Hold On To Your Racket, Control the Controllables, Ready Play Tennis Podcast, What You Talking About Willis, Tennis IQ Podcast, The Passing Shot Tennis Podcast, Rock and Roll Tennis, and the Tennis Podcast. And the winner of the Best Tennis Podcast is Control the Controllables. Here is Dan Kiernan, the show's host.
On behalf of the whole Control the Controllables team, a massive thank you to everyone that voted, to everyone that's been a part of the Sports Podcast Awards. When we were nominated, that was enough for us to get that recognition alongside all of you other amazing podcasters. So a big well done to everyone that has been nominated and a part of these awards. We're still highly motivated. We plan on bringing lots more to you. This started in the pandemic to educate, to entertain and energize you guys. And watch this space because there's a lot more to come. Have a great evening, guys.
Next up, we have a very special guest and someone who's part of the Sports Podcast Awards advisory group, Gabby Logan. And Gabby is sports broadcasting royalty in the UK, right?
Yes, Colleen, it doesn't get better than that. She was also an international gymnast, but then she moved on to have an incredible career as a writer and broadcaster, working for the likes of the BBC, ITV, Sky Sports, and many others, covering multiple different sports. So we're very honoured to have her as part of our advisory board and delighted to be chatting with her today. Welcome, Gabby, to the inaugural Sports Podcast Show. You're normally interviewing me, but I have the pleasure of doing that today. How are you?
I'm very well. It's lovely to be in this position.
Well, how did you find being on the panel and getting to judge all of these podcasts?
It's so hard because I know, as somebody who has a podcast, and you will appreciate this as well, you know, I really put a lot of life and soul into it because it's a self-generated thing that I came up with the idea and I felt that with every podcast I was listening to. These are people's babies, that they've nurtured. And they all had such good qualities, different qualities. And then it becomes kind of very much a personal thing, doesn't it? What you like, somebody else might not. And so you're very aware of that.
It is amazing. I mean, look, you've got your own podcast, Midpoint, that's obviously done very well. But what is your view on the podcasting space now and how quickly it's grown?
The great thing about a podcast is you can cherry pick the things that you really like and things that you want to get engaged by or educated by, or you want to be laughing for an hour, or you want to be, immersed in some kind of topic that you don't really understand and you might understand a bit better at the end of it. And when you start looking for a podcast, there is something to suit everyone at any time. And that's what I love about the space.
What did you find about kind of looking at this year's crop in terms of the engagement and how many independent podcasters are out there with just a microphone and a bedroom?
Yeah, the idea that you can do this, as I say before, it's so democratic that you can just, with any kind of basic technical equipment, start doing this makes it for me a joy, because broadcasters will be found. You know, people will be found who end up making a career of this, or it might be a one series wonder where you've just had an idea, you want to try it out, see how it goes. And so no idea is too silly, no idea is too specialist, because if you're interested, the chances are somebody else is.
Exactly. Listen, Gabby Logan, you're amazing. I can't wait to catch up with you again. Thank you so much for judging, and it's so good to hear about how many of the podcasts you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, James. Take care.
James, this has been an incredible experience. It's been so much fun. So many amazing podcasts and storytellers were recognized today. And honestly, it's been an honor to be in such great company.
Well, it's been an honour to work with actually a consummate professional presenter. I've taken a lot of notes. I've obviously got to up my game if we do this again next year. But you were correct. There's been so many talented creators. Now, we do have one very last special award to recognise before we end the show. We have to announce the overall sports podcast of the year.
Yes. So out of all of the winners you heard from today, our Superstar Advisory Board got together to crown the overall winner, the winner's winner, the best of the best. It gives us great pleasure to announce the sports podcast of the year, Morning
Combat.
Oh, yeah. Let's chat with the winners. Guys, I have a little bit of news for you. It's actually breaking news. So a little surprise here. Morning Combat has won Sports Podcast of the Year.
Wait.
Congratulations.
Sports podcast?
Sports Podcast of the Year.
Are you serious?
Yep.
What?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
We were not prepared for this.
I was
not
very
prepared for this.
unprepared for this. Well, to everyone who stuffed the ballot box with fake votes, you are.
Wow.
We
You know what? For as dark as your heart is naturally, this has to open your eyes that not only are we coming on, but there's good left in this world.
There is some good left in this world. And for some reason, a little bit of it ended up on our doorstep. I cannot believe, I am legitimately, I don't know what to say. Boy, you got lucky knowing me. How about that?
We took over the sports world. Next is lifestyle. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I
Wow.
honestly cannot believe this. I'm like, we get paid to talk, and here I am fumbling for words. Thank you so much.
That's amazing.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, you nailed the Spotty. It's the most prestigious award of the entire night. And you've been officially crowned. The sky's the limit, guys.
Dude, that's legitimately crazy. We were not expecting this. No one tipped us off to this at all.
My next contract negotiation is going to be awesome.
Dude,
You
we're
know
going
what I
to
mean?
lord this over our bosses. You going to pay for us. How about that?
Are you guys going to take each other out to lunch? What will
I've
you
got
do now?
my eyes on a new
Go on a nice
new
walk?
vape pen for this man who deserves it. Okay, you know what I mean? He deserves it. Gold-plated vape pen.
I'm going to find a folded up newspaper on the ground and go sleep. I haven't slept in like 3 days. So what my way to celebrate will be to get slumber so I don't die.
Mommy, why is Daddy always eating gummies? I don't understand it. Yeah. All right.
Well, go take a nap and go get your special new vape pen. Maybe you can get it engraved. Who knows?
Oh, yes.
But congratulations
I
again.
cannot believe this.
You guys
Seriously,
are the kings.
genuine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We did not expect it. I swear I had no idea, and I'm over the moon. Really, truly. For it to be in this position, and for everyone who voted, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you all so much for spending your afternoon or evening with us, depending on where in the world you are located.
Yes, thank you guys so much to everyone who submitted a podcast, the judges, anyone that voted, listened, tweeted, and got involved in this incredible community that's been created. This is just the beginning, and we can't wait to see this baby grow. In the meantime, James and I are going to go smoke a celebratory cigar, and we'll see you guys soon.